band to listen to.
Could you speak more specifically about the scale? I'm confused. You talk about animals per acre, and yet you do rail against the large outfits, right?
Well, only the large outfits that are using concentrated animal feeding operations. Yeah, I am not opposed to scale as long as scale does not compromise the chickenness of the chicken and the tomatoness of the tomato. And one of the critical factors in that is what do you do with all of its community of relatives? Its bacterial bath, its biological surroundings, its cousins like the corn and the cows and the pigs. What do you do about this community? See, in industrial agriculture, essentially what the research or what the paradigm is that we cherry pick out one individual and we try to grow or push that particular individual, and we raise that individual without any regard to its bacterial, seen, unseen community. And that's a problem. That's a problem. And because the community eventually kicks in. And we can see that community every day in these new little Latin squiggly words we've all learned to say in our new modern lexicon, like bovine spongiform encephalopathy, E. coli, salmonella, listeria, campylobacter, words that weren't even spoken 30 years ago, but with this single species concentration, this disregard for how it fits in its community, we've got this now new lexicon that's nature's language screaming to us that we have exceeded its efficiency, its paradigm, see, and it's screaming to us, enough! But we're still dressed in conquistador uniforms with conquistador paradigms, still dominating, manipulating, and forgetting about the greater relationship to the community, including the relationship to the farmer and the farmer's family and the farmer's family and the customers, and what it's going to do in your kitchen and when you cook it, and its relationship to the 3 trillion microorganisms in your intestines. Your 3 trillion microorganisms are a huge community, and they don't know what to do with high fructose corn syrup. They don't know what to do with Twinkies and Ho-Ho cakes and Mountain Dew. And I think it's pretty amazing that we have a government today that's decided it is perfectly safe for you to feed your kids Ho-Ho cakes, Twinkies, and Mountain Dew, but it's unsafe to feed them raw milk and compost grown tomatoes. I think that's a pretty amazing thing. Okay, one more question and we're done. Yes?
What about integrating horses into the system?
Integrating horses into the system. Horses are, they're interesting. Horses have teeth upper and lower. They're fastidious, but yes, horses absolutely can be rotated along with everything else. Horses work best when they're combined with another species, sheep or goats or chickens, or even cows, okay, but another species. The main problem with horses is that it's very difficult to put them in a pasture situation very, very confined, because they want a little more room to move. And so generally, the horse situation, you want to run another species with the horse so that you get your mob up, you get your pressure up, and then the horse, as far as, shelter and stables and things like that, you can make skid A-frame stables and just hook it to the saddle horn on the horse and say, horse, move your house. And the horse can move his house every day. So that's very possible. Now, if you're stabling the horse, then what you want to do is go to the deep bedding system. And the problem, and that's actually been written in Equine News, did a big article a decade ago on deep bedding for horses. And it showed that you could stop hoof problems, you could stop all sorts of hygiene problems by going to a deep bedding. The problem is that horse people don't build stables to accommodate 24 inches of bedding. And so the big cost in horses is the daily muck out of the stable. If we would design them so they could take 24 inches of bedding, and then you just move the horse a stable forward every day, leave one empty, and have 2 pigs, that do the composting behind the horse. Then what you do is the composting reduces the mass, and then one day a year you have clean out day. You invite all your friends to a potluck, and you turn the daily chore into an annual party. See? And the horses are healthier, and you haven't had to do that chore every day. So absolutely, the deep-bedded concept works for horses as well as it does chicks or cows or pigs or anything else. Okay.
Take one more.
One more.
Guys got one more.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's just kind of, you know, I kind of wanted to let you finish on a kind of a calm and stuff, you know, maybe. I sort of wonder, and you hinted a little bit about your views about the open space movement that takes the land out of any kind of use, including farmlands, and we have a lot of that in San Francisco.
I think it's time to close now.
And forests. Now, I'll shut up and you can get excited.
All right, what's the problem with just, well, I think I addressed it, I thought fairly well, but I'll go ahead and reiterate it, that farmland preservation without preserving farmers simply locks up land in a very ecologically lethargic position. The fact is that land, when left to its own, is not productive. And it tends toward brush and weeds, and it ecologically degenerates instead of being freshened up with ecological exercise like periodic disturbance with grazing animals or fire or predator and prey relationships. You don't have grizzly bears and antelopes and elk here now, all right? So how do we create that biomimicry to maintain these pretty pastoral landscapes without all the brush and the junk coming in? The low carbon sequestration species, the species that are indicative of a land in carbon degeneration and soil free fall. How do we do that? Well, we do that with bringing this periodic disturbance onto the land. That's how that's done. And so, you know, I don't have all the answers, but I know that periodic disturbance is right. Now, that being said, don't anybody think that I'm advocating overgrazing. I'm not advocating planting corn and soybeans. Okay? Just take it for what you saw here. Periodic disturbance and extreme monitoring and management of that carbon cycle and the photosynthetic activity so that you maintain those pasture grass plants at energy equilibrium, what we call energy equilibrium. Okay, we're going to close there. I'll be around a little bit more, but now may all of your carrots grow long and straight. May all of you know where your kitchens are and how to use them. May you all know the face of your farmer and a transparent food system. May you all be involved with land healing ministries, and may your children rise up and call you blessed. Thank you for letting me visit with you tonight. Thank you.
Coming out to our community, and I'm going to try to capture that paragraph about what we should do in San Mateo County. I can't even remember any of it, but I'll try to capture it on the